February 3rd, 2026. The world woke up to a headline no one saw coming. King Charles has done the unthinkable. He's stripped his own son, Prince Harry, of every royal title, every military honor, every last thread connecting him to the crown. And this isn't some quiet family squabble swept under the palace rug. This is public, this is brutal, and this is permanent. But here's where it gets darker. The FBI was inside Harry and Meghan's California mansion just days ago. They walked out with evidence, hard drives, financial records, documents that allegedly reveal fraud, deception, and a betrayal so deep it's shaken the British monarchy to its core. This isn't tabloid gossip. This is a constitutional crisis unfolding in real time. So what did they find? And why has the royal family turned its back on Harry so completely that even his own brother refuses to speak his name? Let's start from the beginning. It was 8:30 in the morning London time when Buckingham Palace released the statement. The words were cold, clinical, and devastatingly final. King Charles had signed something called the Windsor Reformation Directive, a document so rarely invoked that most people didn't even know it existed. And with his signature, he erased his son from royal history. The statement was read aloud by a palace spokesperson, but make no mistake, these were Charles's words. He wrote that in light of verified findings by allied law enforcement agencies and substantiated breaches of public trust, he was revoking all of Harry's titles, military roles, and privileges, not temporarily, not conditionally, permanently, and without the possibility of reinstatement. The Privy Council signed off on it. So did the Lord Chamberlain and the Keeper of the Royal Archives. This wasn't a rash decision. This was institutional, calculated, and irreversible. But what could possibly justify something this extreme? That's where the FBI comes in. On January 31st, federal agents executed a sealed search warrant at Harry and Meghan's Montecito estate. They weren't there for a routine check. They were there because someone, somewhere, had blown the whistle. And what they uncovered has sent shockwaves through two governments. According to sources close to the investigation, the FBI is looking into three major allegations. First, the unauthorized transfer of nearly $5 million from a charitable foundation into personal accounts linked to Meghan's commercial team. Money that was supposed to help veterans, families, and vulnerable communities allegedly vanished into a web of consulting firms and private entities. Second, investigators found a private encrypted server hidden inside the Montecito property. On that server were donor communications, identity verification documents, and foreign correspondence that were never disclosed to charity regulators in the US or the UK. In other words, they were operating in the shadows, keeping records that should have been public completely off the books. And third, there's evidence suggesting that at least 4 donor acknowledgments were forged. One of them allegedly used the signature of a deceased British veteran to promote a fundraising campaign for the Invictus Games back in 2023. If that's true, it's not just unethical, it's criminal. Now here's where the royal family stops playing nice. Princess Anne, the no-nonsense daughter of Queen Elizabeth, held an emergency press conference at St. James's Palace. And she didn't mince words. She said this wasn't a quiet removal. This was a constitutional and reputational response. The monarchy, she declared, would not tolerate fraud, the distortion of military service for profit, or the abuse of the crown's symbolic power for personal gain. Then she said something that sent chills through the room. We choose national honor over familial silence. That's a direct shot. And it came from someone who's been quietly furious for months. Behind the scenes, Anne had been pushing for action since November 2025. She personally requested that the UK Charity Commission launch a special investigation into the foundation after red flags started popping up, a delayed grant to a Commonwealth Veterans Organization, discrepancies in financial filings, and then the encrypted server. Once American regulators got involved, it became a full-blown international investigation. And Anne wasn't alone. Prince William, the future king, was right there with her. William made a brief but pointed statement shortly after his aunt's press conference. He said that no one is above the values of duty, transparency, and service. His father's decision, he added, was absolute. And then he said something that felt deeply personal. "It is my duty to affirm that we will defend these standards even when it costs us privately." Let that sink in. William just publicly disowned his brother, the same brother he grew up with, the same brother he walked behind his mother's coffin with, and he did it without hesitation. But William didn't just make a statement. He'd been working behind the scenes for months, coordinating intelligence between the palace's Legal Integrity Office and the Metropolitan Police. He helped draft a cross-jurisdictional memorandum that was handed over to U.S. authorities in December. That memo, now confirmed by government sources, was the key to unlocking the FBI investigation. So while Harry was living his California dream, his brother was quietly building the case that would bring him down. And the palace didn't stop there. Within hours of the announcement, the official royal family website was scrubbed clean. Every reference to Prince Harry's titles, patronages, and military honors was deleted. The court circular, the official record of royal engagements, now lists him simply as Henry Mountbatten Windsor. No title, no designation, no royal identity. Gone is his role as honorary air commandant of RAF Honington. Gone is his position as Captain General of the Royal Marines. Gone are his patronages with the Rugby Football League and the Commonwealth Trust. And gone, most painfully perhaps, is his right to use the initials HRH in any ceremonial or philanthropic setting. A palace insider told the BBC that this wasn't personal retribution. It was a firewall. The crown, they said, cannot and will not be associated with actions under federal investigation. And to make sure everyone understood just how serious this was, the Privy Council released a 42-page document outlining exactly how Harry's security protections, palace access, and travel privileges were being terminated immediately. But here's the part that really stings. Meghan Markle's name is all over the FBI warrant. Yet she's been completely silent. No statement, no denial, nothing. And sources say that's because more disclosures are coming. U.S. prosecutors are reportedly reviewing her role in managing the foundation's finances. And British authorities are preparing to investigate whether she violated UK laws during her time as a working royal. Even Queen Camilla is caught in the crossfire. She's declined to comment publicly, but insiders say she's furious. Why? Because her son, Tom Parker Bowles, apparently warned Harry years ago about the risks of working with a particular former employee. There's a leaked email from 2022, seen by editors at the Sunday Times, where Tom allegedly wrote, "If this ever hits Interpol, we're all radioactive." That email is now part of the investigation. And Camilla's office is reportedly reviewing every single piece of correspondence between Clarence House and the foundation dating back to 2020. So what exactly did the FBI find in that house? On February 1st, the Royal Communications Office released a classified summary of the evidence. It was synchronized with a press release from Buckingham Palace, and it laid out the case in brutal detail. The first major finding was fraudulent misuse of royal trademarks. Digital correspondence recovered from encrypted devices showed that Harry had personally approved the use of the royal crest, royal insignias, and the Duke of Sussex title in a commercial contract with a Dubai-based firm called Alamir Holdings Limited. The deal was signed in November 2025 and involved a multi-million-dollar content licensing arrangement. The problem? It was marketed under false pretenses, suggesting official Windsor endorsement when there was none. The second finding was even worse. The FBI uncovered 8 offshore wire transfers totaling $38 million. These transfers happened between February and October 2025 and were routed through intermediaries in the Cayman Islands, Singapore, and Abu Dhabi. The money was allegedly tied to high-profile real estate transactions in California and Qatar, and none of it was reported under the mandatory disclosure terms required by Harry's dual tax obligations as a UK citizen living in the United States. But here's the kicker. Investigators found that Harry had been using shell companies with royal-themed names. One was called Mountbatten Legacy Ventures. Another was called Crown Dominion Media. These weren't just questionable business practices. They were deliberate attempts to cloak commercial activity in royal legitimacy. And then there's the third finding. And this one crosses into something far more personal: tampering with legal custody documents. The FBI recovered files labeled Archie Protocol Final and LL Travel Override. These documents suggest that Harry had been working to bypass custodial monitoring orders that were put in place under something called the Windsor Accord of 2024. He was allegedly trying to obtain backdated affidavits that would falsely claim UK citizenship status for Archie and Lily Bett in order to secure diplomatic protections under US law US. Immigration officials confirmed that there were discrepancies in Lilibet's passport application data. And that's when this stopped being just about money. This became about the kids. Princess Anne held another press briefings. She stood in the white drawing room of St. James's Palace, and she didn't hold back. She said the House of Windsor does not condone corruption under any title, whether it's duke, prince, or peer. What had been uncovered, she said, was a betrayal not only of legal norms, but of the dignity of the crown. And then she said something that felt almost Shakespearean. The monarchy must serve as a firewall against abuse, not a facilitator of it. Prince William followed with his own appearance at the Queen Elizabeth II Conference Center. His statement was scripted, measured, and devastating. He said that what began as compassion had been repaid with deception. His brother, he said, had violated the laws of the countries he lived in and dishonored the institution he was born into. And then he delivered the line that will be remembered for years. "We stand by the public, not above them." That's a direct repudiation of everything Harry and Meghan have claimed: that they were victims, that they were misunderstood, that they were driven out. William just said, no, you weren't driven out, you betrayed us, and the consequences are stacking up fast. The royal household confirmed that it's cooperating fully with U.S. authorities. British prosecutors have submitted a notice of intent to investigate under the Proceeds of Crime Act regarding Harry's undeclared offshore holdings. In the United States, the Internal Revenue Service and the Department of Justice have opened inquiries into possible tax evasion, illicit asset shielding, and false statement filings. The FBI has forwarded a sealed indictment to the United States Attorney's Office for Central California. This isn't just a scandal. This is a federal case. And on February 7th, at 6:45 in the morning, King Charles signed Royal Order Number D226. It terminated recognition of the Duke of Sussex title. It removed all remaining HRH references from international registers. It disqualified Harry from the line of succession. It voided all ceremonial, diplomatic, and military appointments. And it instructed all Crown estates to sever fiduciary links to any entity associated with him. The final clause reads like an epitaph. Henceforth, he shall be recognized neither in title nor in duty as a representative of the crown or of its historic lineage. That's it. Harry is out, completely, and there's no way back. But the story gets even stranger when you look at the national security angle. On February 2nd, a confidential briefing took place inside the Cabinet Office briefing rooms, known as COBR. This is where the British government handles national emergencies, and on this day, they were handling Prince Harry. The meeting included the Home Secretary, the Director of GCHQ, the Chief of MI5, and representatives from the Royal Household Security Division. And what they discussed was classified as security relevant and institutionally destabilizing. The FBI had handed over an evidence bundle that included digital communications, metadata, encrypted transfers, and 3 sealed testimonies obtained under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. And those testimonies revealed something explosive. Prince Harry had knowingly received material assistance, both financial and logistical, from a foreign lobbying group with undisclosed ties to sovereign adversaries of the UK. Let that sink in for a moment. This isn't just about money anymore. This is about national security, foreign influence, potential espionage. Further evidence included a series of communications from Harry's encrypted personal server in Montecito. These communications showed connections to entities registered in the Seychelles and the UAE, entities that were traced back to controlled fronts designed to influence UK media narratives. and gain backdoor access to confidential briefings involving Veterans Affairs, royal ceremonial planning, and even KUS diplomatic initiatives. The implications are staggering. Harry wasn't just cashing in on his royal name, he was allegedly giving foreign actors access to the inner workings of the British establishment. Following the Cobber meeting, Princess Anne and Prince William jointly authorized the public release of two previously confidential internal memos. The first memo, dated October 19, 2025, was authored by the Royal Institutional Affairs Office. It warned of Harry's continued use of unauthorized data access protocols during visits to UK facilities, under the pretense of Foundation business. The second memo, written by the Keeper of the Royal Archives and dated November 29th, outlined a security anomaly. Two briefing drafts related to King Charles's New Year transition plan had gone missing. Those documents were later found embedded within a hidden partition on a hard drive recovered by U.S. agents from Harry's California residence. Think about that. Classified royal planning documents were sitting on a server in California. Documents that had no business being there. Documents that could have been accessed by anyone Harry was working with. A third and final element was delivered publicly by Lord Chamberlain Rupert Swafford. His statement confirmed that Harry's charitable entity had contracted a Dubai-based digital firm called Arkan Metaworks under a non-disclosure agreement. The stated purpose was cloud storage optimization. Sounds innocent enough, right? Except forensic analysis conducted by British and American cyber experts revealed that this firm had exported, replicated, and cross-indexed privileged communications involving royal scheduling, military patronage negotiations, and classified institutional planning regarding the Duke of Kent's replacement. These weren't simple data leaks, according to the joint statement from GCHQ and the UK National Cybersecurity Centre. This breach amounted to an unwitting institutional compromise of sovereign planning infrastructure. At noon on February 3rd, Prince William, acting under full advisory capacity, filed a formal declaration of legal disassociation from his brother. The filing was submitted to the Royal Household Legal Affairs Registry and included a 2-page summary of institutional distance. It revoked all previous informal accords regarding shared royal representation, armed protection, crossover rights, and access to the Royal Military Family Fund. A public version of this declaration was distributed by Buckingham Palace later that afternoon. It stated, "Effective immediately, the Prince of Wales shall no longer maintain any joint charitable, ceremonial, or logistical association with Prince Henry Charles Albert David. All previous standing privileges, courtesies, and cooperative engagements are hereby nullified." In parallel, Princess Anne executed Clause 17 of the Royal Institutional Discipline Charter, last invoked in 1972. This clause allows for the formal excommunication of any blood member whose actions are deemed systemically corrosive to the institution's integrity and security. The execution was carried out through a registered institutional writ, signed by Anne and witnessed by the Queen's Counsel and Privy Chamber Recorder. And then, to preempt any accusations of censorship or internal cover-up, the palace issued a media transparency directive. Under this protocol, all institutional steps, including the King's title stripping order, were made accessible to accredited press outlets. Documentation was redacted only for ongoing security matters. The official directive reads, "The royal family shall not operate in shadows where national stability is concerned. The British people deserve clarity, not choreography." This marked the first time in modern history that such internal disciplinary mechanisms were made available for public journalistic scrutiny. It's what King Charles described as an irreversible shift toward open monarchy governance. But if you think that's the end of it, you're wrong. Because the royal family had one more card to play, and it was the most devastating of all. By dawn on February 5th, the Royal Communications Office issued a second official declaration, this time co-signed by both Princess Anne and Prince William. It affirmed a full internal review of what they called the California Compromise Dossier. The document, submitted jointly by the Privy Intelligence Liaison Unit and Metropolitan Royal Security Division, detailed over 42 separate findings from the FBI operation. Each point was numbered, time-stamped, and accompanied by digital corroboration. Emails, financial ledgers, metadata trails, surveillance transcriptions. And then came the most explosive section. Section 7B, Foreign Entity Access via Private Domestic Royal Assets. It laid bare the fact that in late October 2025, Harry authorized third-party access to a secure digital archive that had once been hosted in Kensington Palace's intranet. That archive had been migrated to a California server under an LLC registered to Meghan, cleverly disguised as a wellness brand. Among the files exposed were military routing schedules, royal household cybersecurity protocols, and archived correspondence dating back to Queen Elizabeth II's post-exit Commonwealth meetings. A high-ranking royal aide, speaking anonymously, said, "This isn't betrayal. It's a cathedral built on stolen keys." While King Charles reportedly took private audience with his personal chaplain at Sandringham's Chapel that morning, Princess Anne summoned a full session of the Royal Contingency Committee at St. James's Palace. There, she presented a motion of preservation, invoking Section 12 of the Sovereign Safeguard Protocol. This is a rarely used clause allowing immediate digital and ceremonial erasure of rogue bloodline claims. Prince William, who entered the chamber with a sealed red box marked Windsor Legacy Assets, seconded the motion without hesitation. Someone present in the room reported that he said, "My loyalty is to duty, not DNA." By mid-morning, Meghan's branded communication nodes in California were flagged by Crown Cyberwatch as violating royal intellectual containment. Her legal counsel in Los Angeles, a boutique firm in Westwood, reportedly received an unprecedented 10-page cease and desist letter signed by Lady Louise Windsor, who was appointed Junior Guardian of Archives following her December investiture. Unexpectedly, Queen Camilla's name appeared twice in the FBI's redacted timeline, not as a perpetrator, but as an unwitting enabler. The most alarming incident occurred on November 15th. Camilla's son, Tom Parker Bowles, attended a private wine tasting at the Montecito estate with 3 unidentified foreign investors. Leaked hotel records revealed they arrived under diplomatic aliases, then met for over 4 hours behind closed doors. Camilla, unaware of the broader implications, had apparently encouraged the gathering, hoping her son could establish a new culinary diplomacy arm of the crown. She had even sent a case of vintage Bordeaux labeled Buckingham 1961. The optics were disastrous. By February 6th, Camilla was forced to issue a personal statement through Clarence House. "I regret the incident, though I was never privy to any misuse of our family's identity or legacy. I have requested my son temporarily suspend all engagements involving royal endorsement." The backlash was immediate. Social media erupted with hashtags, and protesters staged a small demonstration outside Clarence House, holding signs that read, "Royal excess is not a commodity," and "Tom the Traitor." As the fallout expanded, Princess Catherine and Duchess Sophie of Edinburgh met privately at Royal Lodge. The meeting was discreetly confirmed by palace aides. According to insiders, the agenda was twofold. First, a formal review of all Markle-related educational trust claims, and second, a strategic reevaluation of royal guardianship roles in the wake of custody irregularities surrounding Archie and Lilibet. Both women agreed on one core point: never again would the monarchy's institutional memory be held hostage by commercialized actors. A joint memo authored by Catherine and Sophie was transmitted to the Windsor Ethics Oversight Panel that evening. It stated, "The next generation must rise in loyalty, not leverage. Let the era of entitlement end tonight." Late that evening, King Charles, weary but resolute, approved the order of erasure. This was a 5-page decree permanently removing Prince Harry's style of Royal Highness and revoking his lineal coat of arms from all official heraldic registries. A smaller clause, added at William's request, banned the use of Royal Sussex in any digital or commercial format, enforceable under international intellectual property treaties. The final line read, "By command of the Crown, the line that turned against the house shall hold no title, no token, and no shield." The weight of those words echoed into the night, and across the world, headlines simply read, Harry is finished. But before all of this became public, there was one final private reckoning. On January 29th, at 9:45 in the morning, inside the Crimson Drawing Room at Windsor Castle, King Charles convened a rare full-house royal assembly behind sealed mahogany doors. The only absentees were Harry and Meghan. The summons came just 48 hours after the FBI's findings were relayed through private diplomatic channels to the royal household via the UK Home Office. This wasn't a family meeting, it was a reckoning. Princess Anne entered first, her face set like granite, clutching a red folder marked Devolution Dossier, Sussex Declassification. At her side was Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, her silence speaking volumes. Prince William arrived last, escorting Catherine, whose calm exterior concealed a storm of betrayal and resolve. She wore a simple navy ensemble, somber, deliberate, symbolic. At the center of the long table sat King Charles, his signet ring already removed, an unspoken signal of constitutional detachment. Anne opened the meeting by distributing redacted reports labeled FBI Evidence, Montecito Vault. While public-facing media reported only vague suspicions, the documents privately submitted to the Crown were staggering. As of February 1st, the subject formerly known as His Royal Highness the Duke of Sussex is stripped of all royal titles, privileges, and line of succession entitlements. Any domestic or international representations, made using royal insignia by the subject or his spouse, shall be regarded as fraudulent and will trigger a palace-initiated legal injunction. That same day, the palace's legal affairs unit moved swiftly. By the morning of February 2nd, all military patronages associated with Harry were revoked retroactively. The HRH titles for Archie and Lilibet were declared void in formal court filings, citing misuse of monarchical identity. The UK Intellectual Property Office was instructed to block all pending product extensions that referenced British royal figures. Perhaps the most quietly devastating blow came from Catherine. In a private letter addressed to the Archbishop of Canterbury, who had baptized both Prince George and Archie, she requested a spiritual review of any ceremonies involving Sussex offspring, raising questions over legitimacy of past rights based on misrepresentation of parental status. On February 3rd, Queen Camilla, previously silent, asked to be excluded from upcoming state events, citing personal reflection. But palace aides confirmed her son, Tom Parker Bowles, was quietly removed from all royal charity boards the same afternoon. This wasn't just an erasure, it was a controlled demolition, and as the dust begins to settle over the explosive revelations, the institution has moved swiftly to implement permanent safeguards, particularly around the children, the succession, and the legacy of Queen Elizabeth II. Lord Pembroke of the Privy Council confirmed that Harry's digital erasure from royal registers, court rolls, and ceremonial listings had been completed. The move, while largely symbolic, carries heavy historical weight. Harry is no longer acknowledged as a royal figure by the Crown in any public or private domain. Princess Anne was photographed leaving St. James's Palace early in the morning, following a 4-hour closed session of the Royal Strategic Continuity Committee, which she chaired. According to leaked agenda notes, the meeting reviewed and finalized legal language concerning the total severance of all sovereign liabilities connected to Harry, particularly in foreign jurisdictions. The committee's counsel determined that no future state obligations, be they fiscal, ceremonial, or custodial, shall be extended to Harry, Meghan, or their dependents. Simultaneously, Princess Catherine delivered a rare public speech at Windsor Chapel, marking the close of the Candlemas season. Though she made no direct mention of recent events, her final words resonated with unmistakable precision. Camilla's absence from both the Windsor Chapel gathering and this week's advisory sessions has sparked renewed speculation about her diminished role. Multiple insiders report that she is deeply unsettled by the growing influence of Catherine and Anne, especially in matters involving Harry and Meghan. Furthermore, her son, Tom Parker Bowles, is reportedly under investigation for his connections to a private fundraising dinner in Santa Barbara, where references to royal backing were used despite his mother's recent withdrawal from public life. According to press briefings, the reception will host ambassadors from 7 nations and mark the first time Prince George will appear in a semi-official role, greeting dignitaries under his father's supervision. Finally, public sentiment continues to swing heavily in favor of the royal family's hardline stance. In a nationwide poll conducted on February 5th, 79% of respondents said they supported King Charles's decision to revoke all of Harry's titles, and 85% believe that Meghan should no longer be referred to with any royal styling. Perhaps more telling, over 91% said the monarchy was right to protect its legacy from further exploitation. As of today, the gates of the House of Windsor are firmly closed to the Duke of Sussex, and the world has been given one final message. The institution may forgive, but it will never again be fooled.